I'm Jerome Julian, Tri-Cities Market President for SunTrust Bank, and I'm very pleased that SunTrust has this opportunity to partner with the Kingsport Chamber of Commerce and KOSBE to host a special night. And especially you, the small business, in celebrating your achievements in this community. Tonight I'm very pleased as I look around this room to see many familiar faces, and on behalf of SunTrust, we thank each and every one of you for your support of this event and your support of our small business community. Also, I'd like to say a special thank you to Andrea and her team at KOSBE for both the work they have done, not only for this event, but also what you do every day for our business community here. I'd like to take a special moment to recognize my SunTrust teammates that we have here today: David Strait, Jonathan Tipton, Angela Connor, Anissa Cottrell, Charlene Spalding, and Clifton Reed. Thank you for attending, and thank you for your support of the business community. We really appreciate KOSBE and Kingsport Chamber for hosting this annual event. SunTrust tries to act like a small business in a lot of ways. We try to do our business with passion, honesty. We strive to understand and learn what you do and to take the appropriate risks to help you as a client and put the client always first. We also have a special guest speaker tonight for this evening who also encourages education. Education can really help you in this world. It helps you control your own destiny. There's a lot of ways to learn. I encourage you to listen and learn tonight from our guest speaker. He will share with us many of the things that he's learned over the years, some challenges, a lot of his wisdoms. The point is to continue on with your education and plan and achieve, and you will become a winner. Our purpose tonight is threefold. First, to listen and learn. We have a distinguished guest speaker, as I mentioned, who will share a lot of his insights, his experiences, hopefully some of his challenges along the way. Second, and most importantly, to recognize the small businesses that are here tonight that have achieved a lot and accomplishes their accomplishments. We really appreciate what you have done, the risks that you have taken to get you here, and also what you have done to make this a very special year in a trying economy. So thank you for all you've done. And lastly, we're here to have fun, and so meet someone that you don't know tonight, make some business contacts, and hopefully help your business going forward. So without further ado, I'm delighted to introduce you tonight our MC for the evening, Miss Janet Callahan. Janet is the 2011 Annual KOSBE Awards chairperson and also Senior Account Executive for Bristol Motor Speedway and Dragway. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I am Janet Callahan, and my first job tonight is to introduce you to a few very important people. First, the staff at KOSBE, Andrea Wilcox, Executive Director, author of the new book, Startup Savvy, Strategies for Optimizing Small Business Survival and Success, and Mary Beth McLean, Small Business Services Marketing Manager. Mary Beth is behind the wall in the computer room, so you can't see her. She's operating this for us tonight, so give Mary Beth a big hand. Also, I'd like to recognize the 2011 KOSBE Volunteer Council members. If you are here tonight, please stand and remain standing until I've recognized everyone. Steve Sweeney, 2011 Chair, First Bank and Trust. Russ Atkins, Council Past Chair, Wilson, Worley, Moore, Gamble, and Stout. Dixon Greenwood, Ball Realty. Gloria Gamble, University of Tennessee, Kingsport Center for Higher Education. Kathy Richards, Advocoach. Ken Froelich, Pristine Springs Water. Phil Black, Pathway Lending. Raj Mehta, Scott Mason, Mason Distributors and Triggers Barbecue Sauces and Sauces. Steve DeLine, Eastman Chemical Company. And finally, Tom Parham, City of Kingsport, Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Let's give everyone a big round of applause. Thank you so much. If you're here, please stand so we can recognize you as well. Please see the program book for a list of all of our past winners. Thank you so much. If you look around your table, if anyone is wearing a red ribbon, that means they are a contender tonight, so please wish them luck. Everybody see the red ribbons? My secondary goal is to have everyone out of here by 9 o'clock tonight, but in order for us to do that, we have to stick to this agenda. So help me stick to this as we go. I've also been tasked with identifying our sponsors. After doing that, we'll watch a series of short video clips, and then we'll segue into our fireside chat with our guest speaker and moderator. Next, we'll have a silent intermission. During that time, you'll have the opportunity to actually hear from some of our top sponsors. We'll then introduce our judge panel and start our awards presentations promptly at 8 o'clock. Following the awards presentations, we'll draw random winners for some great prizes, including but not limited to a pair of round-trip tickets to anywhere in the U.S. from American Airlines. After the door prizes, we will adjourn. So, without further ado, let's show our appreciation again for our title sponsor tonight, SunTrust Bank. And we also want to thank our other sponsors. Our top tier sponsors include American Airlines, Brock Services, Kinetic Young Professionals, Pathway Lending, Wilson, Worley, Moore, Gamble, and Stout. Our media sponsors include Holston Valley Broadcasting, Times News, Times Digital Group, and VIP Scene, a new addition this year and a new business partner. Let's give everyone a round of applause. Our special event partners, whom we could not do this event without, include Lake Point, Divine Cafe and Catering, who's with us tonight, who provided this fabulous food tonight, Urban Synergy, Express Signs, Flowers by Copper Creek. Look at the flowers around the room. Don't they look beautiful? They've been here all day getting this set up, so thank you all so much. Action Rentals, Cafe Excellence in Pristine Springs, and Holston Distributing. Let's give them a round of applause. Our award sponsors tonight include Dixie Penn Communications, Eastman Chemical Company, Food City, Kinetic Young Professionals, Thompson Metal Services, Triton Insurance, and Workspace Interiors. Again, a round of applause. Now, if you'll please indulge me long enough to watch a few short clips from the wild days of our renowned entrepreneur and contributor and our guest tonight, Mr. Bill Gatton.
We're here tonight to pay honor to our good friend, Wild Bill Gatton. Bill, you've made many, many people in the Bristol area very happy by giving them the best in car trades and services. And so, as a token of our gratitude and our esteem, I am pleased to present you with this award. We thought it was appropriate since you've been talking all in business. Before you buy your next car, don't just inspect the car. Inspect the dealer who sells it. This model offers low price, high trade-in allowance, good service, friendly personnel, many other extras not considered. Because of the 1972 Wild Bill Gatton. Drop by sooner looking over. You'll like the response, the easy way it handles. It's the 1972 Wild Bill Gatton. When it comes to giving good car deals, Wild Bill Gatton doesn't monkey around. We give such good deals, some folks just go, hey, whee, have a banana! Sometimes when you buy a used car, you can't get a real deal. But now when you buy a used car from Wild Bill Gatton Chevrolet Cadillac, we give doggone good deals. Wild Bill Gatton is really working up the ladder. Wild Bill Gatton Chevrolet Cadillac profits are going down the drain. Wild Bill, that means you'll trade my way. You bet your soapy boots.
Wild Bill Gatton hates high car prices, and he's going to beat them down to size. He's giving He's hitting him where it hurts. Suck! He's punching off, up and away with the famous Wild Bill Gatton uppercut. The decision is final. When it comes to saving you money on a new or used car, Bristol's own Wild Bill Gatton is world champion. Right, Wild Bill? You make your move. Wild Bill Gatton, Chevrolet Cadillac, 11th Street, Bristol.
Now it is my pleasure to introduce Miles Verdine, President and CEO of the Kingsport Area Chamber, who will provide a formal introduction of our guest speaker and moderator for this segment.
Thank you. When Andre and I went up to go meet with Mr. Gatton and asked him if he would be willing to speak this evening, and he said yes. We eventually asked him, could we show some of his videos, and he kind of smiled, and I remember those videos, and he said, you know, I paid somebody in Nashville a lot of money to make me look like a fool, and they were very good at it. We enjoyed it, though, Mr. Gatson. Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud, and I'm honored to have the opportunity to introduce our featured speaker. I direct your attention to your program on page 5. And so that we can allow Mr. Gatton more time to tell his story, I ask that you please read that bio. I know you can do it. And in place of me reading the biography that describes his amazing story, I want to share a few personal thoughts about Mr. Gatton. Although I've known of him since I was a young boy, I've only had the opportunity to get to know him in the last few years. I've always known that he's a remarkably successful businessman. It's obvious to anyone in this region. He isn't just a car dealer, however. He's a banker, he's an investor, he's a developer. And yes, we did talk a little bit about his business acumen, but it really was very little. Instead, Mr. Gatton wanted to talk about how he had been helped and how he had been supported. He talked about his friends and his family who had been good to him. He talked about business gentlemen who promised to make him, he talked about business people who had given him ideas, including the gentleman who promised to make him look like a fool. While listening to Mr. Gatton, I was reminding of my good friend, Darrell Rice. Many of you remember him, who, when receiving many of his accolades, would always respond, if you ever see a turtle on a fence post, you know that someone had to have put him there. Likewise, Mr. Gatton gives credit to everyone and anyone, but doesn't take so himself. But it was obvious that his business skills, intelligence, his determination, his marketing expertise, his competitiveness, and his integrity were paramount in his unparalleled success. I also tried to get Mr. Gatton during our conversation to talk about his exemplary philanthropic deeds. And I asked him, I said, why did you then and why do you now continue to give away so much of your hard-earned money? But his only acknowledgement of the very question was to offer his thoughts on the importance of education. He talked at length of education being absolutely the key to the future of our community, the key to our region, the key to the growth of our state, and the key to the future of our country. So I wasn't surprised when, in the 4 December Kingsport Times News article that told a story about Mr. Gatton, he was quoted as saying this: if you've been fortunate, you need to share some of that good fortune. And education is like fishing. Teach them how to fish, and they can eat forever. And that's how this is. If you invest in education, that can help people and their families for the rest of their lives. Asked if and when he plans to retire, Mr. Gatton only grinned, and he said, I'm going to do this as long as I can. I want to keep making money so I can give it away. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you'll please join me in honoring and welcoming an exceptional businessman, a remarkable entrepreneur, and a man with huge heart of gold and a passion for education, Mr. Carroll Martin, Wild Bill Gatton. If you'll have a seat right here. We're going to have a little fireside chat. Now, next I get to introduce the moderator, and that's Mr. Jim Bailey. Jim, I apologize, your introduction is much shorter. Okay. Jim Bailey spent more than 4 decades as an award-winning journalist, news anchor, news manager, and writer. Most recently, he collaborated with Kingsport's WKPT TV to produce the Made in Our Hometown series on manufacturing in our region. Previously, he spent 10 years as an anchor and managing editor for WGHL TV in Johnson City. Jim is a veteran of the United States Army. He also worked in public relations and public affairs, and as an ordained minister, worked with the Worship Network. He is active in many numerous charities, including the Salvation Army, Friends, Habitat for Humanity, the Children's Miracle Network, Muscular Dystrophy Association, American Cancer Society, American Heart Association, American Red Cross, Lions Club, Boy Scouts of America, and Girl Scouts of America. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jim Bailey. Jim, it's your microphone now. Good luck.
Thank you, Miles. Thank you everyone for allowing me to be part of this tonight. Mr. Gatton, thanks for agreeing to sit down and chat with us a little bit. And Miles mentioned while we were being introduced this evening the word success quite a bit, and that certainly applies to your life and probably to what everybody here hopes to achieve in their life. So let me begin by asking you how you define success.
Before we get to that, let me just apologize for everybody in here for having to watch those commercials. I know that they bored me a lot when I watched them, and I hope they didn't bore you any more than they did me. But nevertheless, brings back a lot of fine memories. And the fellow that I hired and paid to make a fool out of me did a very, very good job of it. And his name is Jackson Brown. Not to be confused with the singer. This Jackson Brown, though, is from Nashville, Tennessee, and most creative, talented person I've ever known in that field. And Jack did our advertising for 28 years. And the way I met him was I was copying everything I could from Jim Reed Chevrolet in Nashville, which was the best Chevrolet dealership in the state, maybe in the whole Southeast. And I called on Mr. Reed after having been down there and seeing some of their commercials and asked him if he would mind if I contacted their agency and asked him who it was. He told me it was Noble Brewery there in Nashville. And that he wouldn't mind. So I called Noble Brewery and talked to somebody in their office and told them that I was a small account way out of Nashville and would they consider working with me. They said, well, sure, we've got Valleydale Meat Packers right around the corner from me up there in Bristol, and next time the account executive comes up, we'll come by and see you. So the account executive came up, and back then, he was a middle-aged fellow, but now he looks like a very young fellow to me, but nevertheless, back then, he looked like a middle-aged guy. But he had this young guy with him, about 6'3" or 4", long blonde hair, guitar under his arm, and he had written this ballad of Wild Bill Gatton. Well, that just didn't fit my image of myself at all, just having graduated from an Ivy League school. I talking to him, I found out that he had written a jingle that I had seen before on TV, and it got Winfield Dunn elected governor of Tennessee. First Republican in 65 years. I know, gee whiz, he'd do that, he could walk on water. I'm trying whether I like it or not. So that's how Jack and I got to know each other. And he did my advertising for 28 years. And then he came up with this book, Life's a Little Instruction Book. And I won't tell you all that story but he sold about 75 million of those books, and about 25 million of a few other little books he did, and netted over $1 a book. So since we were only paying him about $30,000, $35,000 a year, we lost him right quick. Here he was making over, he's made over $100 million out of this book. So you can imagine that he didn't last long. Now, any of you could have written this book. I could have written it. The difference was he did and we didn't. So anyway, so much for that. Thank you.
So I guess looking back on your advertising campaign, part of the reason for success is not to take yourself too seriously.
That's true. And as for success, I think there's a lot of things that measure success. Now, the common practice is to measure success by how much money you're able to make. But there are a lot of other things that are probably more important than measuring success by that measurement. Such as the fellow that ran Tyco, I forget his name, the people that ran Enron. Those people, in some people's eyes, might have been successful because they made millions. But I assure you they weren't near as successful as Mother Teresa. She didn't make any money at all.
So success in your eyes then is to do something that has value to your community as well as what you do.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
You mentioned that your friend wrote a book and nobody else did. He made a lot of money from that and was successful. How important is it to be willing to take risks?
Well, I think to be successful, you have to take a certain amount of risk. I mean, when people graduate from college or high school or whatever, they take a certain amount of risk to determine what they're going to do, where they're going to live, and so forth. But the bigger risks generally come from borrowing money. And if you're going to borrow money, you better be very careful and be sure that you know that there's more than one way to pay it back, because you can sure get in a lot of trouble if you borrow a lot of money and then you're unable to pay that money back. An interesting story about that was by Boone Pickens, and he tells this story about this country speculator in oil that he knew, and this fella had been in business a little while, and he got called in by his banker, and banker asked him to come by, so he did. Banker asked him, he said, you know, Sam said, you wanted to borrow $1 million to drill that new field out there, and said, I'll let you have it. And the word on the street is it hadn't hit any wells. And said, an old man said, well, it could have been worse. And so he said, well, then you want to borrow $1 million to drill in that old field and clean out those old wells and put new equipment on them. And you want $1 million for that, and you told me for sure it'd be hitting oil in no time, making a lot of money. And said, it's been over a year, you haven't paid me anything on that loan. The old man said, well, it could have been worse. And so he said, well, said, the other thing too, said, you want to build a pipeline in case you did hit oil to get it into the right place. And said, I don't think there's any oil going through that pipeline. Anyway, I loaned you $1 million, and you haven't paid a penny back on that loan. He said, well, the old man said, well, it could have been worse. And the banker said, well, how in the world could it have been any worse? He said, it could have been my money.
So it's a good idea to take risks with other people's money.
Better be careful so that you make sure that you can pay it back, and you can like it very well, but the outcome won't be too good. Ask this fellow the Sun Press emails.
It's your money, right? Let's talk about reward then. Obviously, the reason to take risk is to try to find reward. What do you find rewarding in your life?
Well, as a young fellow, I started out, grew up on a farm. My dad taught me how to work. We had silos, about 5 of them, and didn't have any roofs on them. It'd be sleet and cold in the winter, kind of like it's probably going to be here the next week. And throwing silos out, one of those things, isn't fun. But that taught me how to work. And then after that, I wanted to make money, and fortunate enough, I raised an acre of watermelons on the long side of the road, raised an acre of tobacco each year, made enough money to go to college. Got out of college and had to go in the Army. I took GI, I took an ROTC, so I went in the Army for 2 years, got out, didn't have any money, had a GI Bill, so I decided to go to graduate school. So I went to graduate school, and after I got out of there, I was fortunate enough to be successful and have made a fair amount of money. A lot of people made more, but I made a fair amount. I'm not complaining. And, but it's been almost, in fact, more fun, I think, finding worthwhile causes to give it to than it was making it. Now, for the first half of my life, I was more interested in making it, but the last half, I'm more interested in finding worthwhile things to give it to. And we don't have too many problems, because we get called on about once a week.
No shortage of places to give away money. Let's talk a little bit about preparing for success then. You've mentioned that you went to several schools. You've obviously done a lot in this community to enhance and expand education. How important do you think it is to go to school, to get degrees in terms of achieving success in business?
Well, degrees is not education. Education is what you take away in your head. And Ben Franklin said, store your wealth in your head, and nobody can steal it from you. And also, you find that statistically the people that have gone to college, graduated, frequently make more money on average than the people that don't have a good fortune to have done that. And I heard on the radio just today or yesterday that people that are unemployed that have graduated from college is like 4.5%, where the national average is 9.5%, but really they say if you include everybody it's about 15 or 16. So that tells you that going to college, getting an education does mean a lot. But on the other hand, there are a few people out there that have extreme abilities that have been more than the average of those that went to college And some of those would be like Michael Dale. He started his business in the dorm room down at the University of Texas and stopped going to college after the first year. And then you got Bill Gates. And Bill Gates went to Harvard, but he didn't last a year. And then you've got this Zuckerberg that founded Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg that founded the Face show. So there are a few people that have been more successful that did go to college maybe than the average of those that did. But overall, there's no question what the people that get an education by going through good, hard high schools and then go on to college and finish college and frequently go to professional school and graduate school, end up on average making a lot more than those people that don't get an education. So Ben Franklin's saying the story of wealth and hated, and nobody can see it from it. Makes a lot of sense.
So we could say you're passionate about education, passionate about giving money away. Is that the passion in your life now? What are you passionate about?
Well, I think that covers a whole lot of it. Certainly giving to the right things. You know, we've given to a number of big institutions like University of Kentucky, East Tennessee State, and Dr. Calvin, who's dean over there at the College of Pharmacy. Virginia Intermont was going to close about 4 years ago, and that had been for a friend of mine and myself. And those things have brought great rewards. But you know, what we've done, given directly to teachers for supplies. I had a sister who was a junior in college when I was born, and she died about 6 years ago, 93 or 4. And she always spent a lot of money out of her own pocket, never got reimbursed from the school system for supplies for the children. And she, because of that, I decided that, well, maybe I should do something like that to try to help teachers. So about 6 or 7 years ago, we did it the first time for teachers in Bristol, Tennessee, and we gave away a little more per teacher, but it was not any more than the last time. But 4 years ago, we gave away about $120,000. The first time, 8 years ago, or 7 years ago, it was a little over $100,000. And we just about a month ago gave 2,627 teachers throughout the Tri-Cities, except for Kingsport. They got a competitor over here, and they didn't want to compete on doing that. And so that's the only reason I did it. But anyway, in Bristol, Tennessee, Bristol, Virginia, Addington, Washington County, Virginia, Washington County, Tennessee, Sullivan County, Tennessee, Johnson City, Tennessee, we gave $50 to each teacher for supplies for their classrooms that they don't get reimbursed by. And it amounted to about $130,000. And we get, on each one of these last 2 times, we've gotten upwards of 2,000 thank you notes. And you really do get a thrill out of getting that kind of numbers back on response from these teachers. You know, the government even recognize that. They don't recognize very many things correctly, but they do recognize this correctly. They allow, the IRS allows the school teacher to deduct up to $250 a year without receipts, and they don't have to have receipts for it. Is that right, Dan? And up to $250 a year, and that's because they recognize that most small teachers spend a good bit more out of their pocket than people realize that aren't familiar.
Since you brought the government into this, what about education would you like to see change?
Well, that's a good question. I see I come up with a good answer. The first thing I'd like to see is to do away with tenure. I think they should take the top 10% of the teachers at colleges, the top 15 or 20%, and pay them more. But the bottom 10 or 15%, they only need to pay less or get rid of it. But to do that, they need to do something about overhauling tenure. I don't know quite how to do it, but there's a lot of people out there smarter than I am that can figure that out real quickly.
You had a program that you suggested, actually, didn't you, that to repair the economy, to at least get things jump-started again?
Well, I'm trying to exactly what to tell you.
Something you suggested to Senator McConnell?
Oh, yes. About the housing problem, I had a solution to that problem, and I wrote it and made it point at my own expense to go to Washington, met with Senator McConnell and Congressman Chandler from Kentucky. And the reason I met with them is because I had known them longer. And my idea was to make all homes that have to go through foreclosure or in threat of foreclosure, either one, be put up to public auction and let investors, any investor, you folks or any company or whatever bid on them, but encourage the building companies who have a lot of people unemployed to reorganize their building companies into about 4 divisions. One division would be the division that would make bids on these homes that are going through foreclosure. Another division would do the remodel and refurbishing. Another division would do the maintenance after they're rented. And the fourth thing is the rental division, because there's a vast undersupply of rental properties and a vast oversupply of these homes going through foreclosure. Now, if you did that, you put a lot of people back to work that are working at these big building companies, but small building companies are good too. You get anybody that wants to invest money. Apple's got more money. Talk about the companies with Apple computers. They've got more money than the United States government, so maybe they won't get in. But you could then take various groups that invest in it, and you give them the incentive by giving them a fast write-off. Let them write off the depreciate what they buy over 6 to 10 years, and whatever they spend out of their pockets for appliances or materials or whatever in refurbishing these homes and getting them ready to put them in first-class rental condition, you let them write that off instantly in the year they do it. Now, the federal government wouldn't be worse off because they're not getting any income off of it now. But if they would do this in 6 to 10 years, when those people sold those homes, they could recapture that rapid depreciation. Or if they really want to give them a bigger incentive, then just don't recapture it, let it be a long-term capital gain. Still get taxed on it. It would be better than nothing, which is what they're getting out of it now. And I've got another idea.
You got another one?
Well, not specifically on that subject, but Senator Ford was a senator in Kentucky that I knew very, very well. And back in the 90s, I had this idea on reducing capital gains. A lot of people were talking about it, but nobody was doing anything about it. And I asked him to talk to him about it at length and wrote out ideas and gave them to him in writing. And I happen to have it with me, but I won't bother with trying to read it to you. But anyway, he wrote President Clinton a letter and told him about these ideas. He actually introduced it in the committee. The bill didn't get passed the way he put it in committee, but he put it in. My idea was to take the 28% that capital gains taxes were at that time and reduce it by 1% for each year that that asset was held. That would cause people to make longer-term decisions and be better decisions. And he introduced it, reduced it 2% a year, which was even better than my idea. But by the time it came out of committee, it was even better than either one of our ideas because they cut it from 28% to 15%. But I still think my idea was better in the long run with the government all concerned because it would not have reduced the revenues of the government as fast or as much as what they ended up passing. And so that's pretty much that one. And then I had a better idea than that even. Back in the early in Reagan's administration, I had this good friend that then the Republican chairman of the state of Florida. He Chevrolet dealer in Panama City, and his name was Tommy Thomas. And you'd see Air Force One after Reagan got elected one time in 10 or 15 or 20 or any time. He was really high up in the political circles. And I had told Tommy about this idea. He thought enough of it that he got me an appointment with Martin Anderson, who was a graduate of Stanford University and also was dean of the College of Business at Stanford. And he got me an appointment with him. And my idea was to you buy a state license plate, you buy a federal sticker to go on that license plate. You don't have those stickers now that after so many years you buy a sticker instead of a plate. And I wanted a federal sticker. This way it wouldn't cost the government any money to the industry. And you buy this federal sticker on cars 5 years old and older, and it would start out, you got to put yourself back in that period. Some of you young folks can't do that because you're too young. But back then, the average car didn't get over 6 or 8 miles per gallon. And I was wanting to do this and take the money that they got for that federal sticker, $100 when it's 5 years old, what, $50 or $100 a year, it'll go up to be about $600, $700. And then take that money and give cash rebates on cars that would get over 20 miles per gallon. And then have a committee that would adjust the amount of that tax for that sticker and also the amount of the cash rebate so that it would be a self-funding deal. The taxpayer wouldn't have to pay for it. And he thought it was a pretty good idea, he said. Only problem was, he said, we never get that passed in Congress. He said, we couldn't get that passed because the cars you're wanting to put that sticker on are the older cars, and those are the more poor people and we never even passed. So I went out there and never thought much about it for about 6 or 8 or 10 years. And then I got to thinking, gee whiz, I had a great idea. I just wasn't a very good salesperson. So if they had done that, you wouldn't have the decline in the value of the dollar today, and you wouldn't have all these people driving SUVs. They'd be driving cars that by now would be getting 40 or 50 miles per gallon, because that's what the public would demand. And believe me, General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler, and all the others would build what the public wants if that's what they wanted. So they've got to change what their habits were. And that idea was probably the best idea I ever had, but I didn't get very far with it because I didn't have sense enough to come back home and sell it to news media, to congressmen and so forth at the local level. And that was probably a better idea than any one of them.
Do you think it's important that people take what they know, their particular business, their particular skills, and try to apply it to public service?
Without a doubt. In fact, that Tommy Thomas I mentioned to, he wanted me to get in politics back 20 years ago, and hindsight's 20/20. And I kind of wish, you know, in some ways I had it, but I was too busy trying to make money so I could give it away.
Any regrets then, as you look back over your career, that maybe you should have done, maybe you run from?
Not really, but you always could think of something you might have done differently. It would have been better for all concerned.
Now, other than giving away money, you must have some things you like to do that are just for enjoyment. How do you relax when you're not working?
Well, I used to like to play golf, but my golf game was so terrible that didn't work too well. And then I was out in California with my wife and daughter 2 years ago and slipped and fell and broke a rib. And so the doctor told me I couldn't swing a club for a while. So I haven't played in 2 years now. But I also kind of like to watch some sports. Now, I don't pay too much attention to minor sports like archery and badminton and ice hockey and football. But I am kind of interested in Kentucky basketball.
Should I point out that there's a reason not to watch Kentucky football?
It's hardly worth watching. They have beaten Tennessee in 27 years. They beat them this year. But I vote for Tennessee most of the time in football, but I like to be for a winner. I always want to be a winner myself, and I want to vote for a winner. And I think this new coach in Tennessee, he'll get it done if they just give him 2 or 3 years. I think he's going to be all right.
Gotta ask you, you're up here without the boots. Where are the boots?
They're home in the closet.
Still got the boots though.
And I have to.
We're about out of time. One last question. Be irresponsible to let you get away without asking you to give the people here just a word of advice. As they go out and try to make their careers, try to be successful, what would you advise them to do?
Well, there's one thing that you must do if you're going to be successful. There's a lot of things, work ethics and lots of other things, but the number one thing is to be honest. You cannot be successful at anything unless you're totally honest. And I don't say that I'm all that honest or that I did some of the things I've done for that reason, but I did it because I thought being honest, you could make more money and do a better job. The first day I arrived in Bristol and took over that dealership, Mr. Roy McClure, who was a fine little gentleman, they said, so he's a fine man. But he had allowed managers, and he'd spent 6 months a year in Florida because he had health problems, to run the place. And over half the vehicles on the used car lot had speed officers run by. And it wasn't illegal to run back at that time. There was nothing illegal about it. But I decided I couldn't make as much money because everybody in town knew they'd been running speed officers back. So even if you had one that didn't have to run back, nobody believed him. So I got all the set people together. We had about 100 employees. And I told them, anybody that's caught running the speed officer back gets fired. And whoever tells you to run it back, they're going to get fired too. So that's the reason I did it, not because I thought that, I'm all that honest, but I do believe that you got to be completely honest if you're going to be successful at anything. I don't care what it is.
Well, I can honestly say that we appreciate you spending time with us tonight. It's been marvelous to chat with you again, and I'm sure the crowd would agree. It's been a fascinating discussion.
Thank you so much, Miles, Steve, and Mayor Phillips, and thank you, Mr. Gatton. That was wonderful. We really appreciate it. We can't let our fabulous moderator, Jim Bailey, go without properly being thanked and recognized one more time. Let's give everyone a big round of applause.
Mayor Phillips and Steve Swing, if you'll come up real quick, please. Mr. Gatton, we did have something we wanted to present to you. Sorry you have to make your way back up here, but if you would, please. It's actually a framed copy of the article that was in the Kingsport Times News Sunday, which I referenced a couple of times. And it's a wonderful article. I'm very proud of what it says about Mr. Wild Bill Gatton, and we appreciate all you're doing to the betterment of humankind. And I think our Mayor Phillips wanted to say something real quick as well.
I just wanted to offer a little constructive criticism to KOSBE. If you're going to have a speaker as popular as Bill Gatton, you may want to expand the room. But Bill Gatton, I've been coming to these things for a long time. You draw a crowd who can set you down.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you saying that, but I can't imagine why anybody would want to come hear me or see those commercials.
Thank you, sir. Quick, how long break?